How do you manage 50 years on the road with such an aggressive touring schedule?
Yeah, I guess we started young enough to where we didn't know any different.
After Dusty Hill's sudden passing, all eyes turned to Billy Gibbons. Fans were left wondering, what would he say? What would he do next? The world waited for a sign, and when Gibbons finally broke the silence, it left everyone stunned. What happened in the days that followed? And what did it mean for the future of ZZ Top? Let's uncover the story that had fans holding their breath. The shock of the passing. Dusty Hill's death came like a bolt from the blue. One day, he was a part of ZZ Top's tour. The next, he was gone. On July 28, 2021, the music world came to a standstill. Dusty Hill, the legendary bassist and vocalist of ZZ Top, passed away in Houston, Texas. The news was sudden. No one saw it coming, not even his closest bandmates. The announcement was made by Billy Gibbons and Frank Beard, the two remaining members of the iconic rock trio. They released a simple but heartfelt statement. "We are saddened by the news that our compadre, Dusty Hill, has passed away in his sleep at home in Houston." It was more than just a bandmate's passing. It felt like the end of an era. ZZ Top wasn't just a band. They were a symbol of Texas rock, a group that held strong for over 5 decades with the same lineup. Dusty Hill was at the heart of it. With his long beard, sunglasses, and calm presence, he was instantly recognizable. His deep bass grooves and unmistakable voice powered songs like Tush and La Grange. More than that, Dusty was the quiet strength of the band. He didn't need to be loud to command respect. Billy Gibbons once said that Dusty's musical timing was perfect. He could walk into a song and make it better instantly. Frank Beard called him rock solid, the kind of guy you could always count on. For over 50 years, Dusty stood on the left side of the stage, never missing a beat, never craving the spotlight. That quiet dependability was one of the things that made ZZ Top work so well. So when news broke that Dusty was gone, it hit hard. The reaction was immediate. Fans flooded social media with tributes and memories. Rock stars, fellow musicians, and longtime supporters expressed their disbelief. "A true legend," one fan wrote. "He was the soul of ZZ Top." Even people who didn't follow ZZ Top closely knew who Dusty Hill was. His look, his sound, his presence, they were all part of rock history. What made the loss even harder was the fact that just a few days before his death, Dusty had left the tour due to a hip injury. Most people thought he'd be back soon. Billy Gibbons had even joked on stage, saying Dusty told him, "Give Elwood the bottom end and take it to the top." That was Dusty, always calm, always committed. Even when he was stepping away for health reasons, he made sure the show would go on. But the show wouldn't be the same, because Dusty wasn't just a musician, he was family. For Billy and Frank, losing him was like losing a brother. They had shared buses, hotels, stages, and thousands of meals. They had grown up in the world of rock and roll together, surviving the highs and lows of the music business. The kind of bond they had was rare, almost unheard of in today's music world. For fans, it was a heartbreaking moment. ZZ Top had always been there. They weren't flashy or attention-seeking, they just made great music, year after year. And Dusty Hill was a big part of why that music worked. His voice, often deep and bluesy, gave their songs a unique edge. His bass lines had a groove that pulled everything together. He didn't need to show off, he let the music speak for him. That's why his death was more than just a headline. It was a deep loss felt around the world. People remembered the first time they heard "Sharp-Dressed Man" or "Gimme All Your Lovin'." They remembered seeing ZZ Top in concert and feeling the steady rhythm Dusty brought to the stage. And they remembered the man himself, kind, humble, always cool. Dusty's death was a shock to everyone. No one could believe he was really gone. Rumors swirled, and fans everywhere were left asking the same question: how did it actually happen? Let's walk you through the details surrounding his final days. Details surrounding the death. Dusty had been battling a number of serious health issues in his final months, many of which he kept away from the public eye. He wasn't one to complain. He was known for being tough and private, but those close to him knew the truth. Dusty was hurting. One of the main problems Dusty faced was chronic bursitis, a painful condition that causes inflammation of the joints, especially in the hips and shoulders. For someone whose job involved standing, performing, and traveling for hours at a time, this condition was brutal. On top of that, Dusty had recently suffered a broken hip and shoulder. While these injuries didn't directly cause his death, they were warning signs. His body was wearing down. And then there were the ulcers. These painful sores in the stomach can lead to a range of complications, including internal bleeding and infection. Combined with his other health issues, Dusty's condition was fragile. His body was fighting a silent war, and over time, it took a heavy toll. A few days before his death, Dusty made a quiet decision that now feels even more significant. He stepped away from the band's tour. ZZ Top had just resumed live performances after the long pause brought on by the pandemic. Fans were thrilled to see the trio back in action, but Dusty, clearly not feeling well, chose to take a break. He returned to Houston to focus on his recovery, leaving his guitar tech, Elwood Francis, to fill in for him temporarily. At the time, many thought Dusty would return soon. There was no talk of anything serious, no warnings, just a break to rest and heal. But those closest to him knew his health was slipping fast. His hip injury had caused him to struggle with simple movements. His shoulder pain made playing bass more difficult than ever, and his overall energy was low, something fans would have never guessed from his steady stage presence. Even though he died peacefully, the reality is that Dusty's body had been through a lot. The broken bones may not have been fatal on their own, but they were clear signs of something deeper, a body that was no longer able to keep up with the demands of life on the road. Billy Gibbons later explained that Dusty's exact cause of death was never officially pinpointed. There's a lot of conjecture, he said in interviews, but it seems like it was all of it. His hip, shoulder, ulcers, it just became too much for his body. That's the heartbreaking truth. It wasn't just one thing that took Dusty Hill, it was everything. What makes this even sadder is that Dusty never wanted to slow down. He loved being on stage. He loved the fans, and despite the pain, he kept showing up, right until the very end. Even when his body was giving out, his spirit stayed strong. Looking back now, all the little signs, the injuries, the step back from touring, the quiet exit, paint a picture of a man who gave everything he had to his music until he simply couldn't anymore. Dusty didn't want to make a big deal about his health. He didn't want pity. He wanted to rock. And that's exactly what he did. It's easy to see a rock star on stage and assume they're invincible. But Dusty Hill was human. He dealt with pain, illness, and the slow wear of time. Still, he handled it with grace, dignity, and strength. Dusty Hill may be gone, but the truth of his journey, his courage, his pain, his music, will never be forgotten. Dusty's sudden death didn't just shock his fans, it hit Billy Gibbons hard too. It took time for him to process the loss, to truly accept that his longtime bandmate was gone. But when he finally spoke up, Gibbons revealed personal stories and details about Dusty Hill that no one had ever heard before. Gibbons finally broke his silence. For over 50 years, Billy Gibbons, Dusty Hill, and Frank Beard were more than just bandmates. They were brothers, united by music, friendship, and decades of shared memories. So when Dusty Hill passed away, it wasn't just the end of a chapter, it felt like the soul of ZZ Top had been ripped away. In a moving interview with Classic Rock, Gibbons described just how shocking Dusty's death truly was. "It was very unexpected," he said. "Although Dusty had his bouts with this and that, he seemed to bounce back each time." Even during their rehearsals for an upcoming tour, Dusty appeared committed and focused. The band had planned a full week of rehearsals, and things seemed on track. Gibbons remembered that Dusty wasn't really out of sorts until we showed up for the first performance. They managed to get through the show, but something wasn't right. Gibbons could see it in Dusty's face and feel it in his energy. I could tell he wasn't 100%, he recalled. What came next would haunt him. After that performance, Dusty told Gibbons that he wanted to visit a doctor to figure out what was dragging him down. He said, "I'd like to take a moment and go to see the physician and see if we can iron out what's got me on the ropes." Dusty returned to his home in Houston and scheduled the appointment. But that very night, he went to bed and never woke up. It was that night he went to sleep, and it was lights out, Gibbons said, the pain clear in his words. It was totally unexpected. Gibbons's reaction was raw and deeply emotional. In a separate interview with Variety, he admitted, "I had a couple of moments with the waterworks coming and going, and I really felt a sense of relief. I said, gee whiz, maybe I am human after all." After 5 decades of friendship, it was a heartbreaking realization. He had lost not just a bandmate, but someone who felt like family. Speaking about Dusty's health, Gibbons revealed that Dusty had been dealing with multiple issues: bursitis, arthritis, ulcers, and chronic pain in his hip and shoulder. Let's face it, you don't necessarily pass away from a broken shoulder or broken hip, Gibbons said, but he was moving a little slow. He said, "Boy, this shoulder and hip are really starting to become a problem." Despite these aches, no one thought they would be fatal. In the end, there was no dramatic final moment. It was off to dreamland and beyond, Gibbons said, summing up the peaceful but tragic nature of Dusty's passing. As Gibbons reflected more on Dusty's death, he quoted his fellow guitarist Steve Cropper, who had once mourned the loss of his own bandmate by saying, "I feel like I've lost a great friend," and that went well beyond another musician. Gibbons echoed those same words about Dusty. "We felt that way about Dusty. We lost a great friend." The loss led many fans to wonder if ZZ Top would continue. Could the band go on without the sound, the presence, and the rhythm that Dusty brought for more than 50 years? For Gibbons and drummer Frank Beard, it wasn't an easy question, but Dusty had left them with a clear message before leaving. "Let's tell you about it. The show must go on." Before the world knew him as the bearded blues rock icon, Billy Gibbons was a Texas native with music in his blood. He grew up in Houston, Texas, in a musical family. His father was a conductor and pianist, and Billy was introduced to classical music and blues at a young age. As a teenager, he was deeply inspired by the sounds of B.B. King, Jimmy Reed, and Muddy Waters. He formed his first band, The Saints, and later The Moving Sidewalks, a psychedelic blues rock group that gained some local attention. The Moving Sidewalks had one big break when they opened for Jimi Hendrix, who even praised Gibbons as one of the most promising young guitarists in America. But despite this high-profile endorsement, national fame remained out of reach. The music scene was competitive, and Gibbons struggled to maintain momentum after the brief success of his early projects. Around the same time, Dusty Hill was navigating his own set of challenges. Born in Dallas, he started playing music with his brother, Rocky Hill, in local blues bands. One of the bands they formed was American Blues, which also included drummer Frank Beard. Dusty faced a tough decision early in his career when his brother left the band due to creative differences. Rocky wanted to stay rooted in traditional blues, while Dusty was open to blending blues with rock to reach a wider audience. Choosing to stay with American blues meant letting go of a family connection and stepping into the unknown. Both Gibbons and Hill faced the harsh reality of the 1960s and early 70s music industry. Record labels were skeptical of unconventional sounds, and regional bands often struggled to break into national markets. Gibbons, after the Moving Sidewalks disbanded, was nearly back at square one. ZZ Top came together in 1969 with Gibbons on guitar and vocals, Dusty on bass and vocals, and Frank Beard behind the drums. What they built was more than just a band. It was a vision. A little bit blues, a little bit boogie, and pure Texas swagger. Their look, their sound, and their chemistry were electric. They weren't trying to mimic anyone. They were crafting something all their own. The little old band from Texas became one of the most consistent acts in rock history, sticking together for over 50 years and producing hits like LaGrange, Sharp Dressed Man, and Legs. What made them unique was their unity. 3 men, 1 sound, and an unspoken brotherhood. Despite finally finding success, both Gibbons and Hill carried the lessons of their early struggles with them. They understood the value of perseverance, the importance of staying true to their sound, and the need for creative control. Their journey from small-town bars to global stages was a testament to grit and determination. And while fame eventually followed, it was the difficult years, the setbacks, the losses, the uncertain nights that built the foundation for the iconic ZZ Top. When Dusty passed away, it shook the very foundation of that brotherhood. Gibbons admitted it hit him hard, emotionally and spiritually. It was an unexpected reality that landed not only in my lap, but allowed me to hunker down and get serious with Mr. Beard, Gibbons said in an interview. He remembered Dusty's last words vividly. Before stepping away from touring due to health issues, Dusty had chosen Elwood Francis, Gibbons' longtime guitar tech, as his substitute. With clarity and determination, Dusty had told Gibbons, "The show must go on. Don't forget it." Gibbons said he pointed and even shook his finger as he spoke, making sure the message stuck. That sentence became the guiding force for what followed. Instead of disbanding, Gibbons and Beard chose to honor Dusty by doing what he loved most, playing music. As an honor to the legacy of the band, we felt it would be more suitable to try to pick up sticks and carry on, rather than just throw in the towel, Gibbons said. His public statement echoed this commitment. ZZ Top will soldier on, he declared, reflecting both strength and respect for what the band represented. It wasn't just about keeping the music alive, it was about carrying the spirit and bond that Dusty helped build. The choice of Elwood Francis as Dusty's replacement wasn't a marketing decision or a fresh start. It was about family. Elwood had been with the band for over 30 years, tuning guitars, managing gear, and becoming part of the ZZ Top brotherhood. And more importantly, it was Dusty's own wish. Gibbons described Elwood's entry into the band as a surprising but much-needed spark. "It's quite a trip having Elwood step in to help keep the ball rolling," he said. "He's adding a great bit of enthusiasm. When I see Frank Beard smiling for the first time in 30 years, I know something good's happening." In a poetic twist of fate, Elwood emerged from the pandemic with a full beard, something that unintentionally preserved the classic ZZ Top image. And though he came from a punk background, Gibbons noted that Elwood's energy didn't disrupt the ZZ Top sound. It strengthened it. "You might even consider us being somewhat new as a band, which we are. It's really entertaining, I'll say that," Gibbons added. In honoring Dusty Hill's final wish, Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top showed the world that resilience isn't just about survival, it's about purpose. The music, the bond, the message, they all had to endure. As long as the lights stayed on and the amps kept humming, Dusty's voice would never truly fade. And so, with heads high and guitars in hand, they carried forward the legacy of a man whose last words still echo on stage. The show must go on. Apart from honoring Dusty's final wish, let's tell you about the heartwarming tributes he received and the golden legacy he left behind, one that still echoes through every chord ZZ Top plays. Legacy and tribute moments. In the days following Hill's death, fans and fellow musicians mourned the loss of a man who had shaped generations with his music. But inside the ZZ Top camp, a crucial conversation took place, one rooted in Dusty's own final wishes. Billy Gibbons, Dusty's bandmate and longtime friend, revealed that before his passing, Dusty made one thing crystal clear: the show must go on. Elwood Francis stepping in on bass wasn't just a professional move, it was personal. He had been part of the ZZ Top family for decades, quietly supporting their sound from behind the scenes. Dusty knew that if anyone could carry on his legacy with authenticity and respect, it was Elwood. Gibbons honored this request, and Elwood took the stage with humility, playing not in Dusty's shadow, but in his spirit. Elwood's enthusiasm really lit a spark, Gibbons later said. It helped us keep the engine running when it would have been easier to stall. One of the most emotional tributes came during the band's performance of the classic hit, Tush. Instead of singing the song live, Billy Gibbons stepped aside and allowed Dusty's recorded vocals to fill the venue. On stage, Dusty's signature hat, worn in countless shows, rested atop a microphone stand, symbolizing his enduring presence. The crowd erupted in cheers, many wiping away tears. It was a deeply moving moment, one that felt like Dusty was still on stage, still grooving with his brothers. The symbolism was powerful. That hat wasn't just a prop, it was a part of Dusty's soul, a piece of the visual identity that fans across the world had come to recognize. By placing it on the mic, Gibbons turned a simple item into a shrine, allowing fans to say goodbye while also keeping Dusty close. The outpouring of love didn't stop with the band. Musicians across genres and generations paid their respects, sharing stories, memories, and tributes to a man whose influence ran deep. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness himself, tweeted, "Rest in peace, Dusty Hill, a great musician and a great guy. I always enjoyed being around him." Slash of Guns N' Roses also expressed his sorrow. Dusty Hill was a rock and roll legend through and through. His tone, his style, his presence, it was all unmistakable. Sad loss for music. Slash, lead guitarist of Guns N' Roses, also expressed his grief. Dusty Hill was a rock and roll legend through and through. His tone, his style, his presence, it was all unmistakable. Sad loss for music. Slash emphasized what many felt, that Dusty was one of a kind, a musician who carved out his own sound and identity. Flea, the energetic bassist of Red Hot Chili Peppers, wrote a particularly heartfelt message. "Dusty Hill was one of the first bass players I admired. He made that bottom-end move like thunder. Respect always." Paul Stanley of Kiss echoed this sentiment, calling Dusty a gentleman and a true original. His groove was the glue of ZZ Top. Paul Stanley of Kiss shared his admiration in a message that praised Dusty's unique charm. "Wow, Dusty Hill, what an icon!" ZZ Top's sound was rooted in that deep groove. A gentleman and a true original. His words reflected the broader legacy Dusty left, not just in sound, but in class and personality. Even outside of the rock world, tributes poured in. Country artist Jason Isbell said, "Dusty Hill helped define an era. You felt his bass in your chest when it played, and it made you want to move." Meanwhile, blues guitarist Joe Bonamassa praised Hill's dedication to the genre. Dusty never strayed from the roots. He loved the blues and brought it to the masses with style and humor. Fans also paid tribute in touching ways, from placing cowboy hats on fences and mic stands at home concerts, to sharing videos of Dusty's performances and flooding social media with memories. In Houston, a mural of Dusty Hill was painted by local artists, immortalizing the hometown hero with his signature beard and hat. Gibbons and Frank Beard acknowledged this wave of support and expressed their deep gratitude. "We've been overwhelmed by the love for Dusty," Gibbons said in a statement. "It means everything to us that so many people saw what we saw in him, a true legend, a brother, and a man who lived for the music." After Dusty Hill's death, all eyes turned to Billy Gibbons. Fans and fellow musicians alike were left wondering, how will ZZ Top move forward? And what does the future hold for the iconic trio, now turned duo, Gibbons and ZZ Top's future? In recent interviews, Gibbons has spoken at length about what it means to carry on without Dusty. He's emphasized that the future of ZZ Top isn't just about surviving, it's about honoring the past while still creating. Every performance they now give is infused with memory, but also with a renewed energy. Gibbons describes this moment in the band's history as an unexpected reality, one that he and drummer Frank Beard had to face head-on. Rather than ending their journey, they saw it as a chance to reframe what ZZ Top means in a modern world. The band continues to tour actively, and their performances are as electric as ever. But Gibbons has made it clear that these shows are more than just concerts. They are living tributes. During live sets, Dusty is remembered with subtle and meaningful gestures. A pause before a familiar bass line, a hat resting on an empty stand, or even a quiet nod during fan-favorite songs. These are not just tokens of respect, They are part of a larger commitment to keep the heart of ZZ Top beating strong. Looking forward, the band is also working on new music, songs that began taking shape before Dusty's passing and are now being completed with even greater care. Gibbons has described the creative process as both cathartic and motivating. "We've got tracks coming," he said, "and they're not about sadness. They're about keeping the wheels turning. That's what we do." While no official release date has been confirmed, fans can expect a blend of classic ZZ Top attitude with a slightly more reflective edge, a natural result of recent events, but never straying too far from their blues rock roots. Beyond the band, the future is equally bright for Billy Gibbons as a solo artist. He's released multiple solo albums in recent years, exploring deeper blues sounds and experimenting with different styles and collaborations. His solo work gives him a creative outlet to explore beyond the framework of ZZ Top, while still holding on to the grit and soul that defines his identity. Albums like The Big Bad Blues and Hardware have received critical praise, with many noting how Gibbons continues to push himself musically even after decades in the spotlight. In terms of style, Gibbons has hinted that the new music might lean even more heavily into blues than some of their past records. "Dusty loved the blues," he said. "He always wanted to bring it into everything we did, even our most mainstream hits. So now, it's like we're returning to the roots, but doing it with everything we've learned along the way." There are strong hints that Gibbons will continue developing solo projects in parallel with his ZZ Top work. He's shown interest in working with younger musicians, bringing the blues to a new generation while introducing fresh energy into his sound. "Music's not something you age out of," he said in an interview. "You age into it. You understand more. You feel more. And when you've still got a guitar in your hands, the story's not over." In addition to music, Gibbons has been involved in various creative ventures, including film and television cameos, voice acting, and even custom car building. Known for his love of hot rods and classic American muscle cars, Gibbons has merged his music with lifestyle branding in subtle ways, always staying true to his roots while remaining culturally relevant. He's also reportedly involved in a documentary project that will explore ZZ Top's full history, complete with never-before-seen footage, stories from the road, and an intimate look at the band's evolution after Dusty's passing. Gibbons wants the documentary to feel personal, not just a celebration of their success, but a tribute to resilience, loyalty, and creative brotherhood. As for retirement, that doesn't seem to be in the cards. "I don't see any reason to stop," Gibbons has said. "As long as the hands still work and the ideas keep flowing, we're going to keep doing what we love." So, what does the future hold for Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top? Continued touring, new music, creative reinvention, and above all, a commitment to keeping the soul of the band alive. It's not about filling a void. It's about letting the legacy live on in every riff, every lyric, and every roar of the crowd. The beard, the blues, and the grit aren't going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. What are your thoughts on Billy Gibbons' heartfelt tribute to Dusty Hill and his decision to carry ZZ Top forward? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.